My Weirdtastic School. Book number 2. Uncle Fred is a Knucklehead. Written by Dan Gutman. Pictures by Jim Pillot. Chapter 7. They Are There. When we got to class the next day, we pledged the allegiance and did word of the day. Then Miss Banks did the weirdest thing in the history of the world. She started spinning around in circles, skipping around the room, climbing up onto the windowsill, and doing cartwheels. "Miss Banks," said Andrea, "what are you doing?" "I'm pretending to be an irrational number," she replied. "Get it? Time is fun when you're having flies." Miss Banks is weird. "As I was saying yesterday," she continued, "blah, blah, 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 blah." She went on and on about irrational numbers. I thought I was going to die from old age. Finally, it was time for lunch, and then recess. Do you know what rotini is? It's this curly pasta. We have a cool slide in our playground that looks a lot like rotini. We call it the rotini slide. So it has the perfect name. We were all taking turns sliding down the rotini slide, and you'll never believe in 1,100,000 years who showed up out of nowhere. I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. It was Uncle Fred. It's true. A car pulled up to the playground. He stepped out and walked right over to us. "Uncle Fred!" we all shouted. "What are you doing here?" asked Michael. "Can I play with you kids?" he asked. Grown-ups never asked to play with us on the playground. Uncle Fred looked a little sad, and that made me feel sad too. "Sure, you can play with us," I told him. "Would you like to slide down the rotini slide?" Alexia asked him. "Yeah," Uncle Fred said excitedly. He climbed up the ladder to the top of the rotini slide and slid down. "Whee!" he yelled. "Look at me! I'm flying! Yippee!" It was a little weird. Grown-ups aren't supposed to slide down slides, and they never say yippee. That's the first rule of being a grown-up. When he got to the bottom of the slide, Uncle Fred wanted to climb up and do it again, but Andrea grabbed him by his shoulders. "We need to talk, Uncle Fred," she said. "How old are you?" "I'm 50 years old," he replied. 50? Wow, that's like half a century. "Shouldn't you be at home, Uncle Fred?" Andrea asked. "Or at the TV studio getting ready for the next episode of Fundorama?" "I don't like being at home or in the studio," Uncle Fred whined, a pout on his face. "I want to be here, playing with you kids." "Why don't you leave him alone, Andrea?" I asked. "He's not bothering anybody." "You're a 50-year-old man," Andrea told Uncle Fred. "You shouldn't be playing on a playground and acting like a little kid. Don't you think it's time for you to grow up?" "Chillax, Andrea," Neil said. "We want to play with him." Uncle Fred sat at the bottom of the slide for a minute, like he was thinking over what Andrea had said. And then the weirdest thing in the history of the world happened. He started sobbing. "See what you did, Andrea," I told her. "You made him feel sad." "Yeah," everybody agreed. Uncle Fred was crying and slobbering all over himself. Emily took a tissue out of her pocket and gave it to him. "No, Andrea's right," Uncle Fred said, after blowing his nose with a snort. "I shouldn't be here." We all gathered around Uncle Fred and put our hands on his shoulders. "I don't have any grown-up friends," Uncle Fred said sadly. "I don't fit in when I'm around grown-ups, and I'm too old to play with kids, so I don't fit in with anybody." You can come and play with us any time, said Neil. There, said Andrea, giving Uncle Fred a hug. Why do people say there when they want to make sad people feel better? What does there mean anyway? Where is there? And why would saying there cheer anybody up? All I ever wanted to do was make people happy, sobbed Uncle Fred. I'm just a sad, pathetic clown. And then he started in crying again. You're not pathetic, said Alexia. And there's nothing wrong with being a clown. Yeah, added Emily. Clowns make people happy. Uncle Fred told us that when he was in college, he wanted to become a teacher, but he was told that he was too immature. That's why he went into children's television in the first place. I didn't mean to make you sad, Andrea told him. I just thought somebody needed to tell you the truth. I'm glad you did, Uncle Fred said. From now on, I'm going to be better. That's great, Andrea told him. It's okay to be silly, but sometimes grown-ups need to act like mature adults. Uncle Fred closed his eyes for a minute, and then he turned to us. But I don't know how to be a mature grown-up, he finally said. I don't know how grown-ups are supposed to act. That's when I got the greatest idea in the history of the world. I know, I told him. We can teach you. Chapter 8. Talk like a grown-up. Did you ever play the Talk Like a Grown-Up game? That's my favorite game in the world. We play it all the time. It's easy. All you have to do is talk like a grown-up. You can teach me how to be like a mature grown-up? Asked Uncle Fred. Of course we can, I told him. It's simple. Watch. Ryan got up and stood in front of me. Hello, Ryan, I said, putting on my low man voice. Hello, AJ, Ryan replied in his own deep man voice, and we shook hands. Grown-ups are always shaking hands with each other. Nobody knows why. Nice weather we've been having, I said. Yes, said Ryan. They say it may rain on Friday. Wait a minute, interrupted Uncle Fred. Why are you talking about the weather? Because that's mostly what grown-ups talk about, I told him. They're always talking about the weather. Who cares about the weather? Uncle Fred asked. Nobody, I explained. Just watch and learn. Ryan and I faced each other again. Do you want to play golf next week, Ryan? I asked. Because grown-ups are always playing golf. That's a great idea, replied Ryan. I need to work on my pudding. How's business, old man? I asked. I made $1 million on Tuesday, replied Ryan. Well, that's inflation, I said. You should buy yourself a new car. Maybe I will, said Ryan. Say, how about those Dodgers? They may go all the way this season, I replied. The grass in my yard is getting too high, said Ryan. You need to mow it, I replied. Then I turned to Uncle Fred. See, I said, it's easy to talk like a grown-up. But I don't care about golf or business or cars or lawns, said Uncle Fred. Nobody does, I explained to him. But grown-ups are old, so they ran out of things to say to each other a long time ago. That's why they talk about all that boring stuff. If you talk like that, you'll sound grown-up and mature. I just don't get it, said Uncle Fred. It's really simple, I told him. Repeat after me. The rain in Maine goes mainly down the drain. The rain in Maine goes mainly down the drain, said Uncle Fred. Good, I said. One more time. Where does the rain go? Down the drain, he replied. Down the drain. And where is that drain? I asked. In Maine, he replied. In Maine. I think he's got it, Alexia shouted. Teaching Uncle Fred how to talk like a grown-up was a great idea, if I do say so myself. No wonder I'm in the gifted and talented program.